Welcome to this week's edition of Bruise and Cruise. I am your host, Chris Jacobson, and today we have a special guest with us coming to us actually from a remote location. It's our first remote podcast. You may recognize his face if you're watching the YouTube video, or you might recognize his name if you listen to his audio. He was a finalist on season 8 of Last Comic Standing on NBC. And he is also co-host of his podcast, Normal World, on Blaze TV. And he tours throughout the country, performing in theaters and clubs. Dave Landau is our guest today. Dave, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how are you, Chris?
I'm doing great. And are you actually in Detroit right now?
No, I am in Dallas, Texas.
You're in Dallas, Texas, but you're originally from Detroit, right?
Yes. I grew up in Detroit. I watched the Lions destroy Dallas yesterday. That was fun. Everybody here looked pissed. It was really nice. I think almost by 40, if I remember correctly.
It was like 42-9 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. It was. It's just nice to see that and to see these people so upset. I'm kidding, of course, Dallas people, but. Yes, I grew up in the east side of Detroit. It's kind of suburbs, but yeah, over on the east side.
Okay, and actually, I was just in Detroit 2 months ago. I was up by St. Clair Shores visiting some friends of ours, actually. So I was kind of in your area or territory as such.
Yeah, so if you saw 8 Mile and 94, that's right where I grew up, was 8 Mile and 94.
So I guess the next obvious question is Eminem. Are you a fan?
I am a fan. Yeah, absolutely. I've been a fan for 20 something years at this point. But yeah, I'm definitely a fan. I know people don't agree with some of his political takes, but that doesn't matter to me at all. I think he's one of the best rappers to ever live.
I got to agree with you on that. I have some other favorite rappers that some people do know and don't know, but Eminem, I think, takes the cake. But I was like, when I grew up, Too Short, it was one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite rappers of all time. So some of these cars back here, you may recognize, obviously, a lot of Mopar cars behind us from Detroit. So kind of
that's why I couldn't believe it was a real thing. I thought it was just a fake background and you were just sitting somewhere, but it's incredible that you have all that stuff, especially a Viper, Mustangs, Thunderbirds. Dude, that's incredible.
It's a pretty sweet place.
You got a bump Too Short in it. I got a clean version of Too Short to play for my son because I bought a 98 Eldorado. So it has a disc changer in it. And like you can't understand a word Too Short says, because it's just nonstop swearing. So the clean version is just like, like it's just this. I still like the beat, but you can't actually get a word out because every other word is cursing.
Do you have one favorite Too Short song?
God, I don't know. It's weird. I don't really pick favorite songs.
Yeah, I pretty much all of his older stuff. His newer stuff sounds like club hits. So I like 90s Too Short.
I'm 90s, yeah, obviously.
Well, so you're a comedian that's been all over the country, and I kind of wanted to dive into some of your in my podcast, I like to dive into people's backgrounds rather than maybe what you're doing, but more so how you came up. So I guess one of the questions I had is, where did you ever get your start in comedy, or was there a certain age you just knew like, hey, I have a knack for this?
I was always good at making people laugh. That was something that I noticed at a young age. So I kind of, the first time I heard of Second City, that's where I started. My dad had told me about it, and I had known about it for years because we used to watch SCTV, which came over from Canada. And then one of my teachers pulled me aside one day, and she's like, hey, you're actually funny, but you're a jackass, and I need you to behave in my classroom. And I think it was my second senior year. And she told me about Second City. She's like, you should really go check this out. It's something that I think you'd be good at. And I took her word for it, and I went and did it. And that's where I started, was going down to Second City. It used to be across from where Comerica Park is, inside of Hockey Town. It's now a different comedy club, but Back then it was Second City, which is like
It
improvs.
was,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's like an improv theater with like sketches and stuff like that. So that's yeah, it's not like a standard stand-up comedy club. That's where I started, was at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak.
Okay. Was there someone that inspired you at some point in your life that you said, "Hey, I'm good at this, but this is kind of the person that I've watched," or was there people that you watched?
Oh, tons. I mean, I grew up on Dangerfield, Eddie Murphy, Joan Rivers. I mean, you name it. Like Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle became like my all-time favorite as I got older and I was starting to study it. And then when I was young, I mean, I loved like old SNL. I loved John Candy. I loved Martin Lawrence. So I kind of looked up to a lot of different people.
Okay. And so when my comedy, where it comes from, some of my favorites were always, I like Kevin James because he was kind of clean. So it was kind of something you could listen to with everybody. And then another one that I grew up with was Dane Cook, was another one that was just really theatric and really out there. And I just thought some of his early to mid 2000 stuff was just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, his first half hour special was really good. I remember that coming out, and then Harmful of Swallowed followed. And I know everybody had Harmful of Swallowed. Every single person I knew. If people deny it, they're just lying. That and Dave Attell's Skanks for the Memories were going around. But I think Attell's Skanks for the Memories is probably one of the best, if not the best, like club comic album ever recorded.
Sure. And so then my next question I have for you is, I see these people, all these comedians, they go out there, they do it, and it's just like second nature to them. Is there some sort of process that you have to go through? Because when I look at comics doing their act, I'm like, it just seems like they're just flowing, like they're talking to the audience, but really they're only talking really from themselves. There's really no response other than the laughter, unless you get a heckler in the crowd. But is there a way you write your comedy or write your shticks and stuff like that to know how you're doing? I guess it's a weird question I have. I'm just like, how do you do it and make it seem so effortless?
I practice, I guess. I don't know. Just doing it for the last 21 years, I suppose, is just or 20 years. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the stuff that I do now, the stuff that I'm putting out there more, it's more personal than anything. So I've enjoyed writing it. I've enjoyed putting it together. I have a book that I need to release. But the stuff that I write now, I guess, is just it's a lot of personal stories that I've told for years, but I've decided to just kind of put out there. But yeah, back when I first started, I mean, it was just about learning how to write a joke and then getting on stage. And eventually it just becomes comfortable. Like I enjoy being on stage. It's a second home. It's something I love. I think it's just a matter of getting up as much as humanly possible.
Yeah. And so when you started, did you like practice in front of a mirror, or did you have family members listen to you and you just kind of do your act in front of them? Or did you really just go to a comedy club and just say, "Here I am"?
I still dance in front of a mirror and sing into a hairbrush like a Julia Roberts movie. It makes me feel sexy. No, I just went to a comedy club, man. Like I was already doing Second City, and I was already writing stuff and doing sketches and, learning how to like be funny and timing. So when I just showed up to the Comedy Castle, I just went on stage for, I think it was like 5 minutes. And then I went up, and that was my first open mic.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, I mean, awesome. I just went and did it, that's my advice I give to anybody, is just go and do it if you want to do it. And see if you like it.
When you're doing it, do you find, like, I know there's hecklers in the crowd because I've watched your stuff. Do you find improvising, like interacting with the crowd, really easy, or actually easier, or is it easier just to do your act?
I mean, it's tough to say. I used to just kind of do my act, but ever since crowd work videos became popular, so did the audience talking to you while you're on stage. So I do talk to the crowd a little bit to kind of deal with, include everybody where I can, do call. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy improvising off of it. And like, I'll only go and talk to somebody if it looks like they're having a good time. I never want to just, deal with somebody who looks like a dick. But yeah, I guess both. I mean, is my answer. I never know what way a show's going to go. I never expect it to go poorly or great or either. I just go up there and do whatever needs to be done. So I guess it's a mix. I enjoy it though. But yeah, the crowd work thing has definitely become a lot more popular in recent years. So you kind of just do it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the guy that I will sit front row and I want to be picked on because I just think it's hilarious to be picked on and it's fun to laugh at yourself, honestly. So I've been on cruises where I go to every comedy show that the people are there for, and I will sit front row and I hope that I get picked on. And I don't know what the reason is, but
Yeah.
a lot of that is such good improv because you don't know what the next crowd is going to be. Me coming in compared to the next audience that shows up is going to be someone totally different. So you're always on your feet. And I just find that be crazy because I'm not that quick on my toes to think of something real funny.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of training, it's just doing it as much as possible. And then, if you're working a cruise ship, I've never done one. I know a lot of people that do though. And I know that your audiences are going to be different. You might have some shows with kids. You might have some shows where, I know it like ranges. So I think it's just that's a different muscle, especially being, I don't know. I don't know if there's a comedy club on a cruise, I guess I could do it, but I've never found that appealing, at least the way that they used to do it, where they had like some guy come out and greet everybody and you had to be one of them. And then I heard they put you in a really crappy room. I've heard all this stuff has changed, but it's just everybody made it sound so horrible. I actually won in 2004 the Carnival Cruise Comedy Challenge in Lansing, Michigan. And they just let the other guy who came in second win because he was like a lot older and it made a lot more sense. So I was 20, I think 21 at the time. So they just gave me all the feature work that was the second place. And I loved it. I mean, that benefited me a lot. I ended up touring the South and like going on the road pretty quickly. So it was worth it. But yeah, I didn't even take the cruise work because they were like, I don't think this is right for you.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think that. Because nowadays on those ships, they have 18 plus. So you don't have to be family friendly by any means. You can just be as dirty as you want. Even the guy that comes out and hosts it, quote unquote, comes out and greets the people, he's dirty as shit too. So it's actually a little different maybe than 2004 would have been because I go to every one of them and I've been on like 18 different cruises. So I really love those.
Oh, really?
Fun. Oh, yeah.
What one do you do?
I do Royal Caribbean, usually the biggest ones. So a lot of them have been Oasis of the Seas lately, but last year I went on Icon. Okay. And now this year I was going to go back on Icon, but just found out recently I'm going to be a father. So
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And now that she can't cruise between a certain point, we'll have to find a different vacation in March. So that's okay though. I look forward to being a father too.
Yeah, it's probably good. If they say not to put your pregnant wife on a cruise, it's good to not do it. You don't want your baby to be goofy.
He's going to be goofy one way or the other. Doesn't matter.
Are you having a boy? Do you know?
So we're going to find that out here about the beginning of November. We'll know. And I'm actually we're going to do a reveal on the podcast here of whether it's a boy or girl.
What do you want? Let's get it on record.
I want a boy.
I know. That's the honest answer. It's the same thing I wanted, and I got exactly what I wanted.
But my wife said the same thing. She goes, we want to have 2 kids basically. And we said, we want boy first, girl second. And we both have agreed on pretty much everything of how many kids we want and the order we want them. But the main thing is we just want a healthy baby is all that we care about.
Yeah, that's the thing you say, but you do want the boy. I get it. I do the same. I said the same, but healthy is the most important, obviously. But yeah,
absolutely. So I got a question then for you. Have you ever had anything, a joke just bomb on stage? I mean, you've been doing this for 20 plus years. Has there ever been just a time you're like, I thought that was going to be fantastic, and then no reaction?
Yeah, most of what I write. I mean, anything that you write that you're very confident in and you're like, this is going to work, it doesn't. And then the one that you throw out there that's like you didn't really try that hard on, that usually tends to be the one that kills and you end up keeping in your act. For some reason, I don't know why that is, but yeah, the one that you're real confident in usually fails unless it's so much from your heart or you're going on a rant. Like that's why I have to record my sets. But yeah, there's tons of them. I mean, there's ones that'll work in some rooms, and then if I do it in another room, people will get offended. So I have to figure out like what I have to do in front of what audiences. Like if I'm doing like Rogan's Club versus a lot of like a Midwest city with a lot of like Fox News fans or Blaze fans, it's different. Like you can get away with similar stuff, but a lot of people are just a little bit older and might be a little shocked by some of the things that I might say. So I have to pick my moments with my material.
I was just listening to something the other day that you said, and they asked you what the difference was between a left-wing girl and a right-wing girl, and you said the left-wing girl the right-wing girl didn't have a bulge.
Yes. and you and you could hear the crowd reaction of like they didn't know what to do. They wanted to laugh, but they were also scared. But it was an honest answer.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that. I was listening to another one of your it was on TikTok. It was you were talking about Boy Scouts, and you were talking about how back in the day, like, yeah, just let your kids go off with a Boy Scout and tie knots, and the guy with the handkerchief around his neck, he's no problem.
Oh yeah, the short shorts and the neckerchief and the pencil thin mustache and no children of his own. Well, that's why every time you turn on Price is Right, every other commercial is like, did you have sex against your will with a scoutmaster? And it's like mesothelioma and Boy Scout rape. And who's calling that number? Like, who's like, listen, I'd really like to be part of a class action lawsuit so I can get a quarter from the Boy Scouts of America for the time I got gangbanged in 1968. Like, I imagine you'd rather just keep the secret. Doesn't make any sense.
I guess I haven't watched Price is Right lately.
No, like it's a lot of the commercials, like a lot of the daytime TV commercials are just this organization had sex with me. Call this number. Boy Scouts is like they had to close down Boy Scouts.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't think it exists anymore. But yeah, it didn't go well. But I'm not shocked. Like you should at least have like a parent. Like we had Cub Scouts, and everybody who was like around was somebody who knew the kid. We didn't just have some guy who brought you into the woods. Like that's not
like that's so true. I was never in the Boy Scouts, so I can't tell you one way or the other. But
yeah,
I understand what you're saying. Like there should be some chaperones, obviously.
Yeah, like I'm not just gonna send my kid camping with some dude. Like I guess back in the day we had people were a little bit naive, but I mean they were around back then.
Oh yeah, I definitely highly agree. They probably were.
Oh, they were. My uncle beat the crap out of a guy who was following my aunt home, and my uncle wasn't well. He died in a boxing match in Mexico, but at the time, he was insane. So he saw the guy kept following my aunt, and he came outside and he snuck up behind and like grabbed the guy to the car and was like beating him to death. And the cops came. They had a kid in the trunk. The guy ended up getting arrested. My uncle looked like a hero, even though he really wasn't being a hero. Like it just was a coincidence that he saved a kid's life. He just really wanted to hurt somebody. But yeah, that had to be like 1956 or 57. So it was like a long time ago. You know, they were prowling around back then.
Jeez. Well, I got another question for you then is just wondering, what are some of the big challenges that you have as a comedian? Is it, I don't know if it's the writing or is it getting into places? Is there anything that makes it a big struggle? Because like I said before, you guys make it look somewhat effortless just being up there talking to the crowd. Because again, you're kind of talking to yourself with crowd reaction. Is there something people don't understand behind the scenes that it's like, we make it look easy but this is hard.
I have full-blown AIDS, so it's pretty difficult to walk out there after coughing for a straight hour. Like it is, I really didn't get it treated in time, and boy, huh, I'm winded just walking out there with no, but I guess really what I don't think anything makes it a struggle. I think what a lot of people say, Emo Phillips said it best, like you pay me for the travel, you don't pay me to be on stage. And that's really what it is it is time consuming. You're on planes all the time. You have to be away from your family. Like it really, there are, I mean, granted, there are jobs that are harder, like all of them, but if you have a talent for it, it's a great thing to do. Like I don't know why people try to do it when they can't do it. Like I've seen some people who just have been doing comedy for 10 years and I have no idea why you would want to suck at something for your entire professional life, but it is what it is. But I think it's just kind of trying to balance your own sanity, your own life, and then battling the internet and all that. You know, I mean, everything is under a microscope and criticized more than ever now, and that's something that you're always aware of. And then people, want to take part in the show or whatever it might be. But I mean, really the biggest hurdle is just you have to sacrifice like your 20s with your friends, your 30s with your friends, it's like you have to sacrifice a lot and it's not easy. Like you have to sacrifice a lot of time and all your weekends. And it's just it's the opposite direction everybody will take.
Yeah, and I had someone that was just on the podcast this week that said, you see someone's success and then you don't realize how many years and how much there was behind it. It's like an iceberg. He said, you see the 10% up here, but there's 90% below the water. You didn't see all that hard work that went into it, the sacrifice with friends, things of that nature, like you said, because I mean, you were in your 20s doing this and, you're sacrificing a lot of maybe fun partying days and stuff of that nature.
Oh yeah, I mean, I gave up a lot. I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I definitely still partied, but it was, there is a loneliness to it, and that's kind of just something that you eventually get used to. But it's harder on loved ones, I think, than it is on you, because you're still kind of reaping the benefits of doing the shows and growing your career. I think it's hard for when it's your family that is. My family's the most important thing in the world to me. So being away from them sucks. And that's the only thing that's the trade-off,
Yeah. So I used to, I haven't in a year, I haven't done professional wrestling and I've been doing it for the last 12-ish plus years. And my next question for you is, have you ever had a weird gig? But I'll give you mine first. I wrestled in an 8x8 ring in spandex underwear for, I want to say like a 10-year-old's birthday party. And we're all growing 20-plus-year-old men. So for me, that's the weirdest gig I ever had to do for wrestling. So I'm wondering for you, has there ever been like a weird place that you had to do a comedy skit for? I was just listening to Joe Rogan with Adam Sandler, and he said he was doing a set for like a corporate event, and it was just awkward because you don't know your venue, you don't know your audience and what to expect. It's a corporate event, and he was comparing it to, like, let's just say you had a band on stage. They're just going to kind of do their thing and people will rock along with you. But for a comedian, you need, you want some sort of response of laughter. Has there been a weird gig that you had to do?
Yeah, my friend uses it in his act, but I've done several very weird gigs. One was a nudist colony. That was fascinating. And when we got picked up, like the owner's son was driving us around the nudist colony. It was the middle of winter in Michigan, so it wasn't the sexiest people you've ever seen. But he was clothed. But we go in to see the stage, and there's two guys putting on like a robe, and a girl, like a woman who's like 50, who just looks like she's been battered for the last 10 minutes. Like, I don't know what happened, but we went in and it just smelled like wet ham and like old Doritos. It was really awful. And then we did the show, and everybody's naked. the entire room's naked, and they're like, you can get naked too, and I'm like, no, I'm good. And the guy who was hosting it, he had just a tuxedo shirt on and a micro penis, but he looked like Ben Franklin. So he just looked like Ben Franklin with a vagina and a tuxedo t-shirt. And he brought me up on stage. Like, it was insane. I've never, like, it was like the Asian Doctor in Hangover. It was insane. So this guy brings first my friend Matt on stage. Now, Matt uses this isn't in his act, so I'll just paraphrase it, but he has Asperger's, and he's autism, like legit autism, not the I diagnosed myself because I have TikTok autism. He has real autism from when he was a kid, and I am a germaphobe. So this is the worst venue for both of us. Like, he looks at one guy in the crowd, he goes, so where are you from? The guy goes, let's not get personal. And he's like, your dick's on a folding chair. Like, you're sitting here spread, like, you don't want me to get personal? You want me to know what city you're from? Oh, I'm sorry. I see. He goes, yeah, you're a man who clearly values your privacy. And yeah, I just sat there, and not one clothed person. And there's just people like in a nearby hot tub, and their balls are just like bubbling on the surface. And it was just, and it's like they were kind of prude because they think you're going to make fun of them for how they look. But they were like kind of worried to laugh at some stuff. And it's like, are you judging me? Like, I'm not judging you. And then the other one was, I had to do a strip club, and I was performing on stage, but it was the strip club. The dancers brought their number one customer. And for some reason, like, the majority of the number one customers were in sip and puff blow chairs. So, like, I think they were wealthy and just had an injury settlement. So they would just go there and have a girl get on top of them. And I don't know if they could feel it or not, but it's me, like, basically naked strippers and guys in blow chairs, and one kid next to the stage just like 10 playing a video game. And I'm like, yeah, he's like sitting there playing PlayStation, what was it? The PlayStation Portable.
Handheld? Yeah.
Yeah, the portable one. And I'm like, I looked down, I'm like, should he be hearing this? And his mom's like, he's heard plenty. I'm like, yeah, I don't doubt that. I don't know if this is the best environment for a young man to just be surrounded in whores. Yeah. Not that all strippers are whores, but I'm pretty sure they were if you saw the venue. But yeah, that was definitely bizarre. But the guy who I'm with goes up on stage, and he starts doing a joke about rape and like choking a girl out. And it's not a funny joke, but he's doing it on stage. Now, these women aren't laughing because they're reliving whatever made them a stripper. So they all look horrified, like, while this guy's doing this bit of sexual assault, and they're all just sitting there frozen, staring at him. It was one of the most uncomfortable moments of my entire life.
I feel like those are a little bit weirder than me wrestling in front of 10-year-olds in an 8x8 ring with grown men sweaty.
Yeah, like, I don't know if one was playing a video game. I don't know. But you're there to wrestle. I mean, it's weird as hell. I'll admit it. I'd be like, why didn't you just give me Spider-Man or something? Instead, you got me grown men wrestling at my party. But if that's what the kid wants, I mean, I guess that's what their gay son needed.
Well, he definitely got it. What do you
need? Yeah. Oh, he's still living it. But that's exciting. I mean, for a kid, I guess, if you want to have people wrestle, it'd be fun if you did like a death match and there was barbed wire and broken glass. And I mean, you really took it to the next level. That'd be a hell of a good birthday party.
So I want to transition into your podcast that you have, which is The Normal World.
Yeah.
And just kind of want to get an idea of, you're still doing comedy, obviously, but podcasting in my idea, I guess, just seems a little different because it's not a live audience. Like with wrestling, I got a live reaction. With comedy in front of people, you get a live reaction.
Yep.
Do you find joy in the podcasting, obviously? Or is it a little different because there's not a live reaction in front of you immediately?
You get somewhat of a live reaction because there are people there with you. So there is kind of that element to it. But I do like it because, I mean, my show's more like a TV podcast sketch. Like, it has a lot of elements to it. So I do enjoy it, but like, even when I made a movie, like, you don't get that reaction till later. You don't know if people like it until later, and that's definitely something that I like. I enjoy. I don't know if it's I don't. It almost seems masochistic, like, but because it feels so unnatural, like, to sit in a room with other people that are watching your sketch or watching your movie, or just know that it's going to come later, and you hope the timing works. And I think a lot. That's why a lot of them bomb. A lot of them don't, depending on what the context is. But that's kind of what's fun. And also, if you're not doing well on your podcast, or you tell a bad joke, you're kind of eating it, you have your friends there to, like, call you out, and that can be fun too. So I think it's just a different animal, but I think there's a lot that goes into it, at least a good one. I think there's ones that are remarkably good.
Was when you got into the podcasting, was it just as a hobby, or was there a reason why you got into podcasting? Because for me right now, it's literally just a hobby. I don't make any money off of it. I'm just doing it because I absolutely love it, and I've been doing it since January 1 of 2024. So this will be episode 43, coming out on Monday. So I've been just doing it as a hobby. Literally, there's no money, no advertising at the moment. But did you start this up just for something fun to do, or was there a purpose behind it?
No, I just got hired at the Artie Lang and Anthony Cumia show. I was going in as a guest, and they liked me, and then they hired me. And then when Artie left the show, it became Anthony and me. And then I left that show to join Louder with Crowder. And then I left Louder with Crowder, and now I have my own show. So I just sort of fell into it. It's like a comic getting his TV show or whatever. It was really just a break that I got randomly, and it ended up working out well.
You ever find it kind of like therapy? Because a lot of the times when I come in here, when I get a guest, like tomorrow I have another one coming in, and I always tell people, I'm like, I really love doing this because when I come and do podcasts, I'm like, I get to go do it. It's not like I have to, oh man, I gotta go do this today. I'm like, no, I get to go do this after my other jobs. So do you feel that way too? Like, it's just something so exciting. It's kind of maybe your own baby a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I'm very lucky. I get to do it with friends, and I get to have fun. But there is a stress on it. We have a lot of advertisers, we have bosses, we have people we have to run stuff through. So it's not so much just something I do for pleasure. It's pretty much what I do, for a living, along with stand up. So yeah, it kind of just depends. I mean, it's not really some days are more exciting than others. Some days are harder than others. It's working with the staff, working with the team, trying to figure out how to make the best things possible. And not everybody always wants to do it the way that you do or see it the way that you see. So that can be difficult. Like but for the most part, I mean, I'm very lucky to do both the things I do for a living.
So yeah, do you have like a favorite episode that you've ever done within your podcast? Is there one that just kind of stands out in your mind at all?
I really like the pilot, which is all sketches. Honestly, it's the first episode, but it's one that I love. And then one that we've done there, probably our Halloween episode, which is largely sketches from last year, and we're going to do another one this year.
So is there any way that you measure your success with your podcast at all? Do you have any sort of analytics that you go
Sorry, what?
Well, if you're measuring success that way, how long is it?
It's not very successful.
Oh shit. Mine's even worse, maybe.
No, we kind of look at other shows just to see how we're doing, to make sure that we've retained an audience. I mean, we have about 20,000 rabid followers on YouTube. Then we have about 20,000 or so behind the paywall, if not more. So we have that. Our numbers will go up and down. It just depends on if we're being throttled, if we're not. So we have to just look at like watch hours. Really, what I just measured on is just to see if they watch a good length of the episode. We retain our fans. We're building new fans. And so far, I mean, for being on like a year and a few months in, we've got over 100,000 subscribers to the YouTube. We have a ton behind the paywall. So to me, to me, that's how you measure it. I don't really compare with other comics. I never have been that way. I think it's sort of a waste. I mean, you can see what they do or how they do it, why something's successful, but then you got to just make sure that your brand is reaching your target.
Sure. Yeah. And are there other podcasts that you listen to that you enjoy that maybe you take maybe a little bit of their idea at all? Because I know you said you don't compare yourself, but are there other ones that you happen to listen to just maybe for some ideas?
I'll listen to Rogan periodically. Obviously, I'll listen to a few my friend Sword and Scales show. That's a really good murder show. Um, but no, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I used to. I used to listen to a couple on the road, but I honestly don't. I prefer just listening to music or like books on tape. So I don't really pay as good of attention as I probably should. If somebody sends me a link to one, I listen. And I've heard several people's, but I just don't. It's like watching a stand-up special. Like I can watch like 15 minutes of one, but then I stop because I don't. It's like I just want to leave work at work, and that may sound odd, but I don't. I don't know. It's like if you work all day like fixing cars, you might want to go home and drive a car, and not fix. I don't know. You just don't want to.
Sure.
I don't listen to as much as I should, but every now and then I do listen to good interviews, stuff like. But I think this stuff that's intriguing is definitely people that put themselves out there, stories of their personal life. I think a lot of the stuff that I did on Crowder is very interesting because he is kicking a hornet's nest a lot of the time, and it's interesting to see that reaction if you have the balls to do it. Artie and Anthony was really just all about being as funny as you could be. So it all just depend. It was all. But yeah, I listen like every now and then. I listen to some shows, but not as much as I should.
Do you ever listen to yourself back at all?
I do. I hate it. I have to record myself and watch it, and I'll see what I'm doing right and wrong, in my opinion. But I don't. I don't know if I've ever watched a full episode of anything that I've ever done.
All right.
The
Yeah.
pilot. I watched the pilot and the Halloween show, but other than that, I don't think I've made it. Not that I'm not enjoying it. I just don't like. I don't like hearing me. It's very confident to say that.
Well, I feel kind of the same way sometimes, but I have to listen to mine back so I can try to take a segment and put it on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that to try to grow it. So even though I was here, I kind of have to re-listen to it all over and try to find a 1 minute spot that might intrigue people to watch. So I know what you're talking about, though. It's kind of weird to listen to yourself back.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So as we're winding down, I was just kind of wrapping it all together with comedy and podcasting. What's the future for Dave Landau? Where are you hoping to go, I guess, with both comedy and the podcast as well?
Just do more of the same. I just want the podcast to be doing bigger and better numbers. Like no matter what, I always want to strive to be better. I want to do that with comedy. That's really the main things, and focus on being a father. I mean, those are the three things I really care about. I've been lucky enough to do a lot of interesting shows and a lot of cool tours. So just more of the same, really, just to make sure I stay on that, I don't know, steady uphill battle or decline in whatever way you want to look at it. But I'm just trying to figure out what makes me happy and not try to figure out what makes the world happy.
Sure. Yeah. Those are tough things too when you're under a microscope and stuff of that nature. So last two things. If you had to give advice for someone that wants to get into comedy and or podcasting, what's one piece of advice you would say to them?
A lot of people have podcasts. What are you going to do that's going to make yourself stand out? Have an angle. And then I would say the same with stand up. Be true to your own voice. Know who you are. Don't ever take a joke from someone. It's all right to look at people and see how they do it and why they're good at it. I think you should study comedy, but I wouldn't recommend taking a class. Really, I would just recommend going up and doing it and finding your voice and seeing if it's for you. But I'd say go for it. I mean, if it's really something you desire, there's no reason not to.
Awesome. Yeah. And some of the tour dates I saw you had coming up on your website. I know by the time this releases, you'll already be out of Appleton, Wisconsin. Where are some other
Yes.
tours that you'll be at in the near future for others to find you?
I will be in Toms River, New Jersey, doing a really big Toys for Tots fundraiser. So if people want to go to that, it's October 25th. And then I'll be in Buffalo right after that. Then going into next month, I just have dates everywhere: South Carolina, just Dallas. Just go to davelandau.com and I have all my dates on there.
Okay. And if they want to check out your podcast, where would they go to find that out?
They can go to Normal World, which they can check out on YouTube. That's where our show is. It's free Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern. It airs live if you want to join the chat. And then if you want to subscribe to the Blaze network that it's on, you can use code NORMAL20. It's NORMAL20 for 20% off. And then you get everything behind the paywall.
Awesome. Well, Dave, I want to thank you once again for coming on, taking a few minutes out of your day to come on this podcast of the Bruise and Cruise. I really appreciate this. I also want to thank my sound engineer guy, Curtis Harrison, for reaching out to you to making this all possible, because I have some buddies who are really looking forward to listening to this podcast, because they've listened to you well before all of this, and they said, we can't wait to see what this is all about. So again, I want to thank you, Dave, for coming on. I honestly wish you were sitting next to me on this couch over here, because we'd have such a blast. But I wish all the well to you, and take care. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Enjoy your cars and give me one.
You got it. All right. Thank you again. This has been another episode of Bruise and Cruise. Follow me on YouTube if you want to watch this, or any major streaming platform for audio. Again, thank you, Dave, for coming on. We appreciate it. And this has been another episode of Bruise and Cruise. Cheers.